What up, Tube? Back in the garage tonight. I'm gonna be working on the Roadster a little bit here. Get everything slightly mocked up and just sitting in place. Today I really want to concentrate on getting the body mounted to the frame and then go from there. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe. So far this frame is just kind of pre-bent and tacked together. I did put the rear end under it to make sure I had my height and lined everything up. I dropped the motors just sitting on the floor right now. I got that in there and lined up where I wanted to be. Transmission cross member, working on the front still. All of this still needs plated, boxed, and welded. But today I want to concentrate on getting the body connected to the frame at the bottom and at the top. So first step here is cardboard templates. I went and cut two, or made two already. So my idea for the bottom here is I'm going to connect my frame to the bottom here with a plate that goes something like that, a rubber seal, and some bolts down through, and it'll be welded solid to the body. So I got one there, one in the front there, and the same on the other side. A body mount there, vice versa on either side. That'll be enough for the cab area. We'll get onto the trunk after I build some more structure. But I want the floor pan in this to kind of be like a Volkswagen, where my floor pan is actually going to be connected to the frame. I'm going to build the floor pan straight from the bottom all the way back, using probably some 10 gauge steel, something a little bit thicker. All of my electronics, fuel line, brake lines, everything, drive shaft is all above the floor anyway. That way I can have a really low scrub line and be able to drive this thing super low and drag it across things if I need to and not worry about it. Nothing's going to hang down. We're going to lift the motor up an inch from where it is now, and having that extra steel underneath me just makes me feel better in an old Roadster like this. Yeah, so let's take my cardboard templates here, cut some steel, and start making it fit. So I got a piece of 10 gauge here, some templates that I drew up. They fit really nicely around the structure of the door, and then they'll weld right to the inner fender of the body. There's one for behind the door, there's one for in front of the door. This will weld to the inner fender structure and the firewall. I made sure both of these contact points in the car were where there's structural steel coming up the door pillar. That way it can keep it as structural as possible. I'll also be adding some 1x in around my firewall, up off of the back of the frame, around the back of the car, and then the whole trunk structure we have yet to even start to talk about. So for now I'm going to cut these out. I always cut everything by hand usually. We got the trusty wheel of death over there, and like I said, some 10 gauge. So I'm going to cut those out and get them mocked up and ready to go. I got these all cut up, and I'm going to put them in the car here. So, here, basically, this is how this works. That plate's going to go right in there-ish. We'll drill 2 holes, maybe 3 holes down through, do a nut cert, or even just weld in a nut and have something to bolt through, and then I'll put a piece of rubber on the back side on every piece. And there's one sitting on the other side already. And then we'll just weld that along there. And like I said, this weld ties into this structural bracket here. This will all weld right in this whole door structure, right to that structural bracket there. Same on the other side, it all welds right into that structure there. And then our our front piece goes in something like that. Welds into this structure here. So I got a nice weld into the bracket all the way up through there. It'll hold in all of the fender from wobbling and all that stuff. And then I'll build structure in the firewall. We're gonna do a 1x frame all the way around the firewall to stiffen that whole front end up, and that'll weld right into that plate too. On this side of the car, I actually have the fender off, so you can see how this plate that I put in here will tie right into all that structure. And then we'll have 1, 2, 3 bolts that run down and thread right into the top of the frame. So I got my holes drilled in my plate, my holes drilled in my frame, line out perfect. I got some grade 8 hardware. I drilled the hole big enough so that I can weld that nut into there. Zap it, weld it up, drop 3 nuts in, weld them up, and then I'll be able to bolt this plate in right from the top. Bolt it down, put a piece of rubber in between, weld it fast to the outside fender. All right, now I got holes drilled, ready to weld studs in, front and back. Next, I'm gonna start fabbing up a piece of 1x1 square tube that's gonna curve with the body that I can tack the body to. We're gonna run it from here all the way up into the structure here, and then I'll run one across. But so now I'm gonna fab that piece up before I go welding all this in. Yeah, it's just a little easier for me. Once I get this side of the car bottom in, square the top, we're gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna take up 1x, it gets welded to this plate, runs up the inside of where the firewall is gonna be, and that'll give me something to fasten the firewall to, and it'll give me structure in that part. There's structure here, there's structure here, there'll be structure here. I'll square up that side, and then we'll move on to the other side. And this body's a 1931, so obviously it's just kind of out of square and bent. I have some squares clamped to the back of my thing here. So I started by squaring up this back section to the back of my frame, and then we'll get this side welded in and squared up, and then I'll move to the driver's side, welded in, squared up to match the measurements that I get making over here, and that should make my body pretty square in the cab. Once I finish that up, then we'll move on to the rear. Right now the rear has no structure at all, and it's kind of all over the place. So front of my body, the nice tank that I found, it's actually full tank still. I could probably save it, but I need the room. But that squared up the front of the car so well, and it measured out just fine, but the back of the car is all over the place. So both of the fenders get to pull in a whole bunch. There's a big gap here and on the other side, and then that should leave enough room for my wheel and tire. This is not the tire I'm gonna be running, it's just what was on this axle. We're gonna run actually that wheel and tire package in the back. I want skinnies on both sides, on both front and back, while this big 31-inch white wall is pretty fucking cool. I would rather run skinnies front and back. There's my tire combo that's sitting over there on the 62. That's what I want to run on it. So big and little combo, that's the tires that I'm gonna run. Like I said, while this is super kind of rad looking, cartoony, I don't want to go that wide with it. So now I get the 1x to match the curve of the body. I'm gonna use a little bit of cardboard to make a template of that curve inside there. That way I don't have to like bend and try and match it that way. So it's all good. Let's try and make a template. These bullet holes in the bottom are super rad. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut a little bit out of those and flatten that steel so my 1x can run up through them. But I'm gonna keep them. Same with these slashes. I don't know what happened to this years and years ago. I'm sure it has stories to tell, but it's definitely got 4 bullet holes. Nice large slugs right through there, and a bunch of slashes up the side of the body. So I wish I knew. That'd be a cool story. But so I got that all mocked up, had some cardboard match the curve to the inside of that panel. Now I have a template that I can bend some 1x. It's kind of just one of those things where I just use a Sharpie and some scissors and mock up the curve until I get it to match the body really well. It's pretty straightforward. I was originally thinking maybe I'll use some 1x in there to create a structure. Honestly, this 10 gauge steel I think is what I'm going to go with, and just cut another piece that matches just like this one. Originally I was going to put some 1x in there and reinforce it for just the structure of it. I'm still going to do the 1x in the front, but I think in the back here, between that structure and using this thicker steel, I mean, this stuff's pretty thick. It's plenty for what I'm going for, you know. This thing's down and dirty. Most guys will replace all the wood with 1x. Yeah, but honestly, I think that flat plate that I'm using is just fine. So we're gonna do that, and then it'll make it a little bit easier. Same thing, I will drill holes and just make it bolt right into the frame. Makes it easy on me, and I think it's probably my best attack at this point, just because of how out of square and everything is. That flat plate I think works really well. So yeah, that's the way I'm going about it. I'm sure some guys will tell me I'm crazy for doing it that way, but it's my build and not yours. So I'll flip that and use it for the other side as well. That way both sides match exactly and the body's nice and square. I actually ran out of welding gas while I was trying to tack these in, so I cannot weld those in, so it is what it is. But we'll keep on moving, doing things. Running out of welding gas in the middle of the night sucks. I'm always here late too, so it's a Sunday, it's after 5, it's probably 8 o'clock or so, and it's getting a little cold. But yeah, there's nowhere I can go pick up welding gas right now. I should have had the reserve tank filled, but of course, like I always do, the reserve tank's been sitting empty by the front door, and I've been running this tank, and they're both empty now. So I think that's where we're gonna call it for this episode. Yeah, not a whole bunch of stuff going on. I'll get more content up that's just more entertaining as I'm getting back into the swing of things. For more of this build and many others, make sure you follow my pages on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Atomic Hot Rod is the name of the shop, and the pages are also under Handmade Hooligan. Atomic Hot Rod. Make sure you like and subscribe, share this with your friends, help me grow my channel. Until later, have a good night, everybody.